and quite possibly the President of the United States himself. Somebody got to say it, so I'm going to say it. But the one thing I will not do is take credit for this.
The whistle blew, but this time it wasn't just for a foul. It was for something deeper, something the world of women's basketball hadn't seen coming. A storm was brewing beneath the hardwood floor of the WNBA. A clash not just of players, but of power, image, and identity. And at the center of it all stood a rookie. Her name, Caitlin Clark. The girl who turned college arenas into sold-out concerts. The woman who made people who had never watched a women's basketball game start caring. But the brighter the spotlight, the darker the shadows behind it became. Before the noise, before the debates, before the cameras turned her life into headlines, there was just a kid from Iowa, a girl with a dream and a jump shot so pure it made the world stop and stare. Caitlin Clark wasn't supposed to change women's basketball. She was just supposed to play it. But she didn't just play. She rewrote the rhythm of the game. Her college run at Iowa wasn't a season. It was a movement. Every pull-up three, every celebration, every tearful post-game interview, it connected. Because it wasn't just about points on a scoreboard. It was about pride, about power, about a young woman daring to shine in a space that for too long had been ignored. And when she declared for the WNBA draft, the world held its breath. Millions watched. Families, fans, even casual sports viewers who had never tuned in before. They were all waiting. The moment she walked across that stage, jersey in hand, the world thought, this is it. The moment women's basketball finally gets the spotlight it deserves. But what no one realized was that the spotlight doesn't just reveal greatness. It exposes everything. The flaws, the fear, the tension waiting beneath the surface. The league had prayed for a star. Sponsors had waited for a face that could sell not just tickets, but belief. And the fans? They were ready to believe again. But fame, especially in a league still fighting for equal respect, can be complicated. It doesn't always unite. Sometimes it divides. As Caitlin Clark became the name on every headline, a new kind of energy began to simmer. Inside locker rooms, inside press conferences, inside the hearts of players who had built this league brick by brick, who had waited years for attention, only to feel suddenly overshadowed by a rookie. The question wasn't just about her talent. It was about what her rise meant. Was it growth or erasure? Celebration or competition? Every sport has its physical side. That's part of the game. But as Caitlin Clark's WNBA journey began, something felt different. The hits felt harder, the fouls felt louder, and the silence after them heavier. Game after game, fans began noticing. Clips went viral. Slow-motion replays of elbows, shoves, and collisions filled timelines. Comment sections exploded. Was this initiation or intimidation? Was she being tested or targeted? ESPN panels debated. Former players defended the league's toughness. Others whispered, "No, this looks different." And with every missed call, every unreviewed foul, the tension thickened. Because it wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about something deeper. Respect. The question hung in the air like static after a buzzer. Why isn't anyone protecting her? Some said the criticism was jealousy. Others called it growing pains. But one thing was clear. Caitlin Clark had become more than an athlete. She was now a symbol. For some, she represented hope and change. For others, a threat to tradition. Media coverage became its own battlefield. One headline praised her for reviving women's basketball. Another accused her of overshadowing her teammates. And somewhere between admiration and resentment, the real conversation got lost. It wasn't just about Caitlin Clark anymore. It was about what and who the WNBA wanted to be. Behind the scenes, the WNBA was facing pressure like never before. Viewership had spiked. Merchandise was selling out. Sponsorship deals were landing faster than the league could sign them. For the first time, the spotlight wasn't just shining. It was blinding. But fame is a double-edged sword. The same light that brings visibility also exposes every crack. Critics began to speak louder. Some accused the league of mishandling its biggest story, of turning narratives into marketing, of letting hype overshadow harmony. Others said the opposite, that the WNBA hadn't done enough to protect the player who brought millions of new eyes to the game. The truth? It lived in the gray, somewhere between business, image, and equality. And no one, not fans, not analysts, not even players, could agree on what the right version of the story really was. Then came the avalanche of opinions. Former legends spoke about what it means to earn respect. Coaches reminded everyone that rookies have to adjust. Commentators turned post-game analysis into open debate. And fans? They flooded timelines and comment sections, demanding answers, accountability, fairness, transparency. Through it all, Caitlin Clark said almost nothing. She chose to let her game speak. But even silence can be weaponized. To some, her quiet was power, the calm confidence of a competitor focused on the game. To others, it was arrogance, a refusal to play politics in a league built on unity. Every quote became a headline. Every gesture became a statement. And every second of silence became a story of its own. Behind the highlight reels and the hashtags, there was still a person. A 22-year-old woman navigating a storm that no one could fully prepare for. Fame, criticism, and expectation colliding all at once. Sources close to her camp described the pressure as relentless. Every move dissected, every foul replayed, every expression is analyzed frame by frame. She wasn't just representing herself anymore. She was carrying the weight of an entire league, a movement, a generation that wanted her to be everything at once. The star, the leader, the symbol, the story. And that's the impossible cost of being the face of change. When the world crowns you its hero, it forgets that heroes are human too. Imagine that for a second. Every mistake amplified. Every victory politicized. Every silence misunderstood. That's the cost of being the face of change. It's lonely, it's heavy, and it's painfully real. Because when the lights fade and the microphones turn off, what's left is a young woman who just wants to play the game she loves. But now, every dribble carries meaning far beyond the court. The media turned Caitlin Clark into a 24-hour headline cycle. Every story, an opinion piece. Every game, a referendum on how women should act, lead, or even celebrate. And as the narratives collided, so did the audiences. New fans from college followed her into the WNBA, bringing fresh energy and scrutiny. Longtime fans, proud of the league's hard-earned roots, wondered if the sport they loved was being reshaped to fit one storyline. Commentators debated endlessly. Was the WNBA evolving or fracturing? Was this growth or division? But through all the noise, one truth echoed louder than everything else. Caitlin Clark had forced the world to pay attention. For better and for worse. Because when one player becomes a movement, the game itself starts to change. And not everyone is ready for that kind of change. Then came that moment. The play that shook social media to its core. A hard hit, a missed whistle, and a silence that lasted just a second too long. One side called it part of the game. The other called it proof that something was broken. And in that heartbeat between contact and consequence, the story turned. The crowd gasped. The internet erupted. And suddenly, this wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about perception, about protection. and about a league standing in the middle of a storm that wasn't going away anytime soon. Analysts, former athletes, journalists, everyone weighed in. Some demanded stricter officiating. Others said Clark needed to toughen up. But the real issue was never just one play. It was what that play represented, a league standing at a crossroads. The WNBA had wanted recognition for years, and now it had it. But attention isn't always gentle. It shines where it hurts. It exposes cracks, tests systems, and demands answers no one is quite ready to give. Because fame doesn't build character, it reveals it. And as the spotlight grew hotter, the league found itself staring into a mirror it could no longer look away from. Accountability, structure, consistency. 3 words that sound simple until you're the one trying to protect. A league still learning how to carry the weight of its own success. Now, the WNBA faced its most critical question. Would it rise to the moment, or collapse beneath the gravity of everything it had prayed for? Because the Caitlin Clark era had done something no one else could. It forced fans, players, and executives to confront uncomfortable truths about visibility, about fairness, and about the future of women's sports. It made the league impossible to ignore, but also impossible to excuse. Every whistle, every headline, every handshake now meant something. It was no longer just about the game. It was about what kind of league women's basketball wanted to become. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the controversy, not the noise, but the transformation. The WNBA is no longer asking to be seen. It's demanding to be understood. Across social media, the movement grew. Not just justice for Clark, but something bigger, louder, and more meaningful. Justice for women's basketball. Because fans weren't asking for special treatment. They were asking for balance. They didn't want sides. They wanted progress. They wanted a league where every player, rookie or veteran, star or role player, could compete under the same light of fairness. They wanted a world where physicality didn't become a weapon, where passion didn't get misread as attitude, and where shining too bright didn't make you a target. That's what Caitlin's journey had ignited, a fire far greater than herself. A movement of voices demanding equality, accountability, and respect, not just for her, but for every woman who laces up her shoes and steps onto that court. Because this wasn't just about one player anymore. It was about all of them. Every woman who had been told no one cares. Every player who had fought for a chance to be seen, heard, and valued. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be the center of a storm. But sometimes, history doesn't ask for permission. It just arrives. And when it does, it chooses its heroes and battlegrounds in the most unexpected ways. Her story isn't just about basketball. It's about the cost of leadership, the price of progress, and the courage it takes to keep showing up when the world expects you to fall apart. Every shot she takes, every foul she absorbs, every headline she ignores. It's a quiet reminder that greatness doesn't grow from comfort. It grows from conflict. It's forged in the fire of criticism, pressure, and perseverance. And right now, women's basketball is learning that same lesson. Not in theory, but in real time. A league evolving under pressure, a generation watching closely, and a young woman standing tall, not just as a player, but as a symbol of what comes next. The WNBA stands on the edge of something powerful. Viewership is up. Attendance is climbing. Young girls are wearing jerseys with names they actually recognize. The conversation may be messy, but it's also meaningful, because it means people care. It means women's basketball is no longer silent. And whether you love Caitlin Clark, question her fame, or simply love the game, you can't deny that the story has changed forever. This is what evolution looks like. It's not clean, it's not comfortable, but it's real. In the end, the spotlight always moves. But the silence it leaves behind, that's where the truth lives. Caitlin Clark's story isn't over. The WNBA story is still being written, and the next chapter depends on whether the league can listen to its fans, to its players, and to the message hidden in every roar of that crowd. Because behind every whistle, every foul, every cheer, there's a game that's no longer just about basketball. It's about belief, it's about respect, and it's about the courage to stand tall, even when the silence feels deafening. This is not just her story. It's the story of a league finding its soul, and a reminder that sometimes the loudest revolution starts with silence.